久しぶりだな、麦わら。
What's up, guys? We are here today with some POV gameplay footage for you. We are playing Lucci and taking on purple Luffy here from OP05. He got the going first curve off the dice roll. We open up here on our second Dawn turn play with Spandam, and you can see we have another one in hand. Unfortunately, the first one whiffs, but we are able to get a Helmeppo engraved. So that's going to be helpful for our Moria play later, because you see we do have Moria in play, or in hand rather. We end up playing the second Spandam here. Our options here are either picking up the Spandine or the Lucci. Spandine's an okay option because it allows us to play Lucci from trash, but that also gets rid of a lot of cards from trash. So we opt to pick up the Lucci here, knowing that we'll be able to utilize it along with the Tempest Kick here pretty soon, already having 5 cards engraved. Here, Purple Luffy is going to use his ramp to play his Mr. 2 to then swing 6. We're going to take that knowing he can't play the Law this turn, and he's going to want to play the Luffy Taro on his next turn. So here on Fordon, we don't really have great removal options if I recall. We may want to just establish the Brook, but we end up swinging 5, give -1. You can see we drew a Kuzan for turn, so we may actually play the Kuzan to be able to get rid of the Luffy on the following turn. We do end up playing the Kuzan here, and we draw into another Spandine and passing turn. Him now going to 7 Dawn. He's going to be able to play Luffy without using leader effect if he so chooses. He may also use the leader effect to go up to 8 and then be able to swing 6 while playing Luffy. Ultimately, I think given our current board state and his current board state, I think he would probably want to use the leader effect this turn, because if he does play the Luffy, he's going to have to do Dawn -1. So using the leader effect here allows him to be at 9 Dawn on the following turn, while also being able to swing 6k this turn, as opposed to just using the leader effect on the following turn. But he does swing 5 here with Bond Clay. We counter out of that with Spandine, and then he does swing with the leader, not using the leader effect here, just playing out the Luffy Taro and Sangoro. So here with Kuzan on board, us now going to 6 Dawn, I believe, we're going to want to take the free clear of the Mr. 2 or Bond Clay with Spandam here. He just lets that go, knowing that we have another Spandam if he decides to counter out. So here we're going to probably swing and play Lucci. So Kuzan gives the -4 cost to Luffy, making him a 3. Leader effect makes him a 2. So with that, we can only bring him down to a 2, which is why we can't get the double clear, because Tempest only makes Sangoro a 2 cost, and Lucci clears a 2 and a 1. So we're missing the extra -1 cost. But I think we're more than happy to give him the 1 card draw off the Sangoro and work on clearing that next turn, while we establish our Moria, because we do have Helmeppo in trash. Now, one thing I think I'm not positive on is whether we have a second Lucci in trash, but we end up swinging 7 here, telegraphing that we're going to play the 4 cost Lucci, and we get rid of the Luffy Taro, putting back Ice Age, Suru, and Kuzan. Kuzan, I think it's a bit too late at this point to replay it off Moria. Ice Age, we can't recycle. And Suru, we've already got Helmeppo as a better option to play off Moria. And Rebecca can't grab Suru, so that's why we chose those 3. But we're going to pass turn here. Him going to 8 Dawn. He can use leader effect this turn, like I mentioned, and play a 9 cost either Kaido or Linlin. Linlin is probably the better option, because once you play Kaido, you can't really play a big body on the following turn. It's probably better to sequence this into a Linlin to heal the Kuzan, and then Kaido on the following turn. Because without Kuzan, we're going to have a really hard time clearing a 9 cost body without an Ice Age as well. So he's swinging 6 here, gets the draw. We end up having to take that. He swings 5. I would imagine we want to counter out of that in case he does play Kaido. We don't really want to be forced to counter out of a 10k swing or go to 0 life. because we don't really have blockers in hand at this point. So this should be a pretty easy counter. We're debating if we want to get rid of the Brook or one of our 2Ks. I would really, just go ahead and get rid of the Brook. Don't be inefficient with your counter, especially with a deck that plays a bunch of tall bodies. So he does use the leader ramp here. Plays the 9. It's going to be a Lin. He pitches a card here to be able to get the free heal. And then he ends up putting Kuzan at the bottom. Lin, I'm a bit torn on. It's obviously a great card, being able to get such a big body out and get rid of our Kuzan as a threat for removal or cost reduction, at least. But it also gives us a 3rd life, so we're not feeling as pressured. Here now, we're going into our 8 Dawn turn. We have Moria in hand, but our Moria is pretty lackluster. You can see here that we don't have Rebecca in trash, or I don't believe we also have a 2nd Lucci. So we don't really have a way to remove outside of Helmeppo Brook, which technically Helmeppo Brook, along with the leader, would be able to get rid of Sangaro. But we may end up opting to establish the Jack here to give Lin another distraction to swing into, knowing that we have a bunch of counter in hand. We can use the Tempest to clear the Sangaro and get a card draw, but we're going to swing 6 into it first to see if he lets it go, just to be able to get a card out of hand. And then we're swinging 5 with lead at the leader, giving -1 to Sangaro, milling. It looked like another Helmeppo along with an Ice Age. I think the best bet here is to save Moria until we get better trash established, and Jack will be able to help that with the cycle. So 8 Dawn here, I would imagine he's going to take the 5 now, and we're going to use the 1 for the Tempest on the Sangaro. We draw into another Jack, which is a bit unfortunate. I don't think we need 2 Jacks and a Moria in this game. But we do end up finally seeing the Rebecca, and we're going to filter out that 2nd Jack using the 1st Jack. So overall, not a bad turn. I think realistically here, he could pressure down with playing a Kaido, popping the Lucci, and then swinging twice into Jack just to get cards out of hand. Or he could just pressure face, depending on if he has the 10 drop. But we know that we've got quite a bit of counter in hand at this point. We've got, what, 3 or 4 2Ks along with Rebecca. And we have 2 Morias in hand. So now that we have the Rebecca and we have the other pieces of the combo, we're going to let Lucci go here because we need that in trash for the following turn to be able to clear a body. Granted, we don't really have any other cost reduction, so if he plays something big here, we're not going to be able to get the double clear. Or sorry, not double clear, but we're not going to be able to clear anything above, say, what? Helmeppo's 3, leader's 1, 4, Jack is a 3 cost, so we could remove a Luffy Taro if he plays it with the Jack. Unless we draw an Ice Age or something, which would allow us to be able to clear the 9 cost pretty easily with the Ice Age plus leader plus Jack. And then that would allow us to do a value Moria. But here, he ends up swinging 8K at leader. And you see that we kind of, it's awkward for us because we want to get the Rebecca in trash for our Moria. But we don't want to counter out of an 8K with 2K and 2 1Ks. Or over counter significantly, so we end up just countering the Rebecca and taking the life. So now we're sitting here at 2 life. He ended up playing the Luffy Taro into Zoro. He's starting to run low on hand size here. I don't imagine that we'll swing into the Lin, and it doesn't look like we have cost reduction to be able to get rid of it. So I would imagine you're going to see us play Moria along with Rebecca Helmeppo to be able to minus the Luffy Taro and clear that with Jack. And then just pressure face with the leader here. I think given that we're not going to be able to use a Tempest Kick or Ice Age, we could potentially play the Spandam in hand. So I think we're debating if we want to swing 6 with lead or swing 7 and play out the Spandam. I know that we have cycled through quite a bit of CP, and we have a number of CP 2Ks in our hand, so it probably doesn't make sense to search with Spandam at this point. So we're just going to swing 7 into face, try and put him down to 1, milling 2, and giving the -1 to the Luffy. He's going to counter out of that, going to what looks like either 1 or 2 cards in hand. And then we end up playing the Moria, and like I mentioned, we're going to just play the Rebecca and Helmeppo, giving -3 cost to the Luffy, making it a 3 cost, and then we will use Rebecca. Given that he's at such few cards in hand, we may actually just decide, instead of grabbing a 2K here, to play out the Lucci just as a body, because we could potentially have lethal next turn with Lucci, Moria, Jack in leader swings. So it looks like we are grabbing the Spandine here. We've got plenty of CP targets because all of the top row of our trash is going to be CP. We end up choosing to put back 2 Spandams and a Tempest Kick to be able to bring out the Lucci that he KO'd. And then we're not going to need to use the Lucci effect again because Luffy is still at a 3 cost. So we're just going to be able to use Jack to get rid of it and cycle out another card, drawing into yet another 2K. I think we see, given the board state here, we probably don't need the second Moria. We're probably going to be able to just close it out. We were debating between getting rid of the Spandam or the Moria. We choose to keep the counter in hand just to make sure that we're able to stay healthy if needed. So we have either 7 or 8 cards in hand at this point. I'm sure we'll flash it up here pretty soon. Looks like he's grabbing 3, so we expect that to be Usohachi to rest Rebecca. So it looks like he's potentially going for game, knowing that he can't live another turn. So he attached 3 to Zorojuro here. He only has 4 more active Dawn. So this is telegraphing that it's going to be a 999, which I know Kuzan as our last life is a brick, but I'm not sure that swinging 3 9s is correct. I think it's probably 7 9, not 7 9 11, maybe 8 9 10 is a bit better. But that's just semantics. I mean, you can see we have a ton of counter in hand. We would have been able to counter out of pretty much anything regardless. We do counter out of the final 10K swing, and you can see with the counter in hand, we certainly could have countered out of another of the 9Ks and stayed at 1 life. But we know him now only having 3 cards in hand and 2 life. It's mathematical lethal because 7 with Lucci gets rid of 2 cards, putting him down to 1 card. 7 is a guaranteed take with leader. That's 3 Dawn invested. 9 is a guaranteed take with Moria, no Dawn invested. And then we can just stick the rest on Jack. And if he chooses to take the 7 from Lucci, we just swing 9 with Moria immediately. But he does counter out of the 7 with a 0 cost and a dead card, having 1 card left. We end up just swinging 5 here, knowing that he either has to get rid of the 1 card in hand, or he counters, or he takes the life. And if he gets rid of the 1 card in hand, we still have a swing with Spandine there. So it was just math regardless of how we swung out there. And you can see in our hand, we still have 4 2Ks and Rebecca for 9K counter, so we were in no threat of dying. Hope you guys enjoyed.